What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We are back. Scott, my man, how the hell are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We talked quite a bit before the show, which we normally don't do, but we've been ranting and raving for...
Blood pressure's up.
Yeah, the blood pressure's up. Coffee intake is up. Stress levels are high. We can go in a lot of different ways. I'm going to have a little rant about the defense. We're just going to jump right into the review, the Week 15 review that we do, looking at the Lions versus the Rams. They stumble and lose 41-34 to the Rams in a game that felt very winnable because they were winning. They had the first half lead in this game, and then it just stumble in the second half and fall apart. And it just, I don't want to say same old Lions because I hate it.
Yeah.
But it felt very similar to days in the past, and I just don't know what's gonna be of this football team when we get to the finish line in 3 weeks. But what did you take away from the Lions' loss to the Rams in Week 15?
I think the first thing that we have to preface the entire thing we're going to talk about today by giving the Rams their credit for being a better football team than the Lions in just about every way. The Rams' offense is awesome, right? Their offensive line's really good. They run the ball very effectively. I thought that the Lions would match up better against them because the Lions go heavy in the extra linebacker and all that stuff, and I was wrong around that. I was surprised how much 13 personnel the Rams played, which took away any advantages that the Lions may have had with size. In the beginning, it was like they keep taking Nakua off the field. That's great. Well, so and then the Rams defense, we already know what their defensive line is like, and it's ferocious. And their linebackers played really well in that game. Their safeties tackled really well. They did a very good job of hemming in Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. So I think we just have to recognize that the Rams are a really, really good football team. And
Best in the NFL.
Yeah. And as much as we have wanted and we want the Lions to be viewed like the Rams, they're not. And it's a bummer to come to the conclusion after Week 15 that the Lions are an 8-6 team, and that's about what they are. And that's about fair for what they are. They're hot and cold. They're inconsistent. They do really good things. Like it felt at halftime, it felt great. All right, they're in this game. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a shootout. And then, by the end of the third quarter, the game was over. The Lions punted twice in the third quarter. They punted on their first possession in the fourth quarter, and by that point, the game's over. There were a lot of things that stood out to me as problematic, but I think in some ways it's results-based thinking that maybe doesn't belong in like a rational conversation around what it is that they did in the second half. I don't like that they punted 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
The first play on their second possession was the deep shot to J-Mo. And we've been calling for that kind of a play. Mm-hmm. And they took a shot. And, we can say what we want about it. It's really close to being completed. There's we'll get into this, the officiating is some of the nonsense that goes on there. Goff gets smoked in the helmet there. It's helmet to helmet, blah, 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 whatever. But after you go 3 and out on the first possession, it makes it tough to take that shot and not complete it, knowing that it likely leads to bad down and distance on second down and a 3 and out punt 2 possessions in a row. That's a problem.
Yep.
So again, the process, the product based thinking is that we don't like the second possession because they punted, but we love the aggression, and we like that they took the shot, and it's super close to getting there, right?
It is weird. It and I don't mean to cut you off, but on that specific play, it is weird that when you look across the league and the landscape of teams, and I'm not trying to be the conspiracy guy and poor Lions, they only get the short end of the stick with penalties and whatnot. Going into the Rams game, the Rams were the least penalized team in the NFL. I didn't expect them to get a bunch of calls. But to your point on what you just said, we saw Goff get hit in the head. We saw J-Mo get tripped up, still almost catch the ball. We have other plays where J-Mo's in the back of the end zone basically getting tackled before the ball is even remotely close to him. No call. But on that play that you're talking about, I find it odd that if you look at, the Packers with Jordan Love and their pass catchers, you look at the Chiefs with their pass catchers and Patrick Mahomes, if you look at probably Matthew Stafford and their pass catchers, if the shoe's on the other foot and somebody else is making that play, making that throw, I'm sorry, I'm 100% convinced that there's a flag somewhere on that play.
Probably two.
And there wasn't. And it's maybe not just the Lions. Maybe this would happen to the Browns. Maybe this would happen, to the Bills or the Jets or whatever. But it's just odd for a league that throws so many flags, and for a league that, and I have every Sunday at 1 o'clock, if there's 6 games going on at one time in my basement, and all I ever see sometimes is yellow on the screen, on every single screen. And it's like games that are dictated by the refs all of the time. There wasn't in this game. And it just seems really odd. It seems really weird. And I don't know. It's just really weird, especially the touchdown catch that wasn't a catch that is a touch. It's just the whole thing is weird when it comes to the refs regarding Detroit. It's like there's a narrative that they've got to stay below the standard of winning football because that's what we need them to be. That's the narrative of this team. That's how we label them. That's how I feel.
I mean, it's hard to argue that nobody's arguing that if they mark Colby Parkinson down at the 1 yard line on that play, that the Rams don't eventually score a touchdown from first and goal. That's not at all what's. But
they might not have, because against the Eagles they stopped them like 6 times at the goal line. So
you never know. I mean, fumbles happen, holdings happen, whatever. The things happen.
Right.
But to review that play and to have Dean Blandino being so insistent that that ball was going to be down at the 1 yard line, and then for it to get called a touchdown, it's like, there's so much fishiness in and around that. And then, it goes to review, and it's almost like they stop the review at a certain point, because if you take it to I think the most logical place is after Parkinson rolls over, you have to complete the process going to the ground. Mm-hmm. The ball bounces up and he's laying out of bounds. So did he really have possession that whole time? No, because they would have marked him down at the 1. They're saying he had possession after he crossed the goal line, but you're going to the ground there and you roll over, you go out of bounds, and the ball pops up in the air. It rolls around in his hands. I just don't know how it's not good for the NFL to have that kind of review come out and have no explanation for it. It's just bizarre.
100%. And in a league that makes billions and billions of dollars, it's just odd to me that you can't make these guys full-time officials. I don't understand it. Yeah. It's the oddest thing. And as you were saying, you go to Dean Blandino, he says he's down at the 1. Replay assist shows that he should be down at the 1. What's the point of the replay assist? What's the point of the replay? What's the point of Dean Blandino being in the box? Why are you paying him $200,000 a year to sit there and be essentially wrong to your decisions that you're making on the field? Like, if that's the product that you want to sell us, fine. Of course, we're going to keep eating it up and watching it because we all love football. But like, it's the most ass backwards stuff. And it just makes you feel sometimes like there is a narrative. There is, I'm not saying a script, but there is something that they want, and that's what they want this, and this is what they're choosing, because we're talking about it right now. We're spending the first 10 minutes of our show talking about it.
Yeah.
Countless radio shows and podcasts across the globe did the same exact thing. So I get it I get it all, but it's ass backwards and it's just not right. But it is what it is. From the football side of things,
That's the thing. I don't think it changes. It's not like there's a win or a loss. The Lions,
we got their ass kicked. We got our ass kicked.
Physically assaulted in that game. Their offense played so well that they were in that game for the most. I mean, 41-34 is not what that game felt like. It was a multiple touchdown game in the fourth quarter. Lions scored late to make it, 41-34. Credit for them scoring all that stuff. Their offense was great. I thought Goff played awesome. They just, again, the inconsistencies around some of what they do popped up to start the second half. The Rams scored 17 third quarter points. The Lions punted twice and were in the process of punting a third time at the end of the third quarter. I want to say the Lions were, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but they were, I want to it's possibly like -5 total yards in the third quarter.
Yep.
And 2.5 possessions. It's just like, you can't, against that team, you can't be on the road against that offense and that defense and have those things happen and expect, to come away with a win. It's just a bummer that here they are entering week 16. They're 8-6. They have to finish 3-0. And if they do, 11-6 is about, I think, what everybody thought they might end up, but having to finish the way they're going to have to finish is just disappointing. I mean, we can look back at some of the losses they've had and think, man, like the Minnesota loss is going to be one of those where you go, oh boy. So, I guess some of the takeaways for me, I thought Goff, J-Mo, Amon-Ra were great on Sunday. Gibbs really had nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. The offensive line struggled. They did a good job in pass pro, and the Lions for the most part, did a good job of getting the ball out very quickly. But a lot of that is Goff. Goff was incredible on Sunday. Even doing things, having to move, like making plays on the run, and he just was, and he played. He was tough. He hung in there, all that stuff. Defensively, you brought this up on Twitter, so I'll let you talk about it. But their inability to get set up and ready to play is concerning.
Oh yeah,
it is, and I wonder if the Rams spotted something about the Lions being late coming out of their huddle, because there were times when the Rams hurried out of their huddle and they hurried to snap the ball.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, you're only doing that for a reason.
The old sugar huddle. Yep.
Yeah. So that's problematic. Stafford was great. The Lions did not pressure him. They really didn't make things uncomfortable for him. The Rams' running game was really effective. It's really good. The Lions didn't have many answers to what the Rams tried to do on the ground, and they had a lot of missed assignments. Like, you think about Rock Ya-Sin playing on the edge. He's got contain. He steps too far inside. Corum goes outside, scores. Yep. Boom. I think the Rams offense is one of the more well-rounded games. Offenses, the way they play the game with their offensive line being real heavy with their 13 personnel, and then having Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, what are you going to do? It's a tough matchup. It just is. So we got to recognize some of that too. I do not like, I know you're going to rant about the defense, and by all means go, but I don't love what the Lions do on really important downs playing man coverage. I don't love the fourth down man coverage stuff. I just don't.
You're telling me.
Reminds me a little bit of the Don Brown, Michigan days when they would play man so much against quarterbacks who only wanted to run. And it's like, you're just asking the quarterbacks to run. Like, hey, it's JT Barrett. No offense, JT Barrett, if you're listening, but you were an incredible runner. And I'm sure you were a very competent college quarterback, but throwing the football into tight windows and making things complicated was not the strength of his game. And they asked him to run. And it's almost like, if you're the Lions and it's 4th and 5 or 10 or whatever it is, and you're playing man coverage, and you're not getting pressure on the quarterback quickly, you're asking for them to you might as well just give them a first down. So
Nope.
those are the things I saw outside of the Rams defense being far too physical for the Lions offensive line and their tight ends. That's to me it wasn't alarming because I think you expect it from Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and company. You expect those kind of things because that's what those guys are. But it was surprising to see the Lions get out physical the way they did.
Yeah, I think if anybody, if there's ever been a good injury for somebody, that no injury is good, but Sam Laporta getting injured is very good for him and his agent because he's now showing his importance to this football team. It just is what it is. Like you think, oh, so it's a tight end, you can just get anybody.
No,
playing tight end is very tough. And it's a position where you have to be physical, you have to be aggressive, you have to be able to run block, you have to be able to pass block. And guess what? You still got to go out and run routes and catch the ball. Like you got to do a lot of different things. And I'm not biased because that's the position I coach, but it is what it is. And Sam Laporta is better than anybody they have doing it. And they're just not getting enough from the guys that they have. And I will say, sure, they never envisioned Brock Wright to get hurt, but they probably, and I said this in the offseason, you should be drafting a tight end. Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech was the guy I wanted because I felt like he fit the mold for what they needed.
He would be dynamic here. It's just as a blocker. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And if at any point, if I pause or mute myself, it's just my throat is dry and I got this tickle coming on and
you're good.
Whatever. But so, yeah, I think that's one thing with the offense. The tight end position is a huge need for them moving forward. They need to find ways to protect Sam Laporta, stop hurdling guys, whatever the case may be, but get him back healthy. And I think you'll see this offense get somewhat on track. Get yourself a center. If that's Frank Ragnow, so be it. I think they'll be okay. Keep Christian Mahogany healthy. Keep Penei Sewell healthy. Keep these guys healthy. And I think the offense long-term will be okay. They have enough there.
See, even if Ragnow comes back, I still would want them to draft a center early.
Oh, yeah. No, I still
like Connor Lew, the Auburn center who tore his ACL. I know he's going to go relatively early, but you can't then, you can't rely on Ragnow to be fully healthy. And 2 years from now, you don't want to be in the same hole you are today, right? You can't do that. You just can't take steps back because you don't have a competent center.
Yeah.
So that creates problems. It does, but I guess that's for another time. We'll do that draft season. But yeah,
But they got to identify. They got to identify too. Like is Mahogany's your future left guard? Okay, cool. Where's Miles Frazier fit in the fold? What are you doing, Tate Ratledge? Is he your future center? Like, start identifying all of that, and maybe that is it. Maybe it is Mahogany at left guard, Ratledge at center, Frazier at right guard. If you get Frank back, cool. Whatever. Conversation for a different day. But offensively, I agree with everything you're saying. They couldn't get the run game going, specifically in the second half. And when they did, they would always move backwards with offensive holding. That first drive for them, they did have a first down. That first drive. They first run, seven yards for Gibbs. Next play, 5 yards for Gibbs, coming back because of offensive holding, which was a clear offensive hold.
Yeah.
So
on the tight end,
on a practice squad tight end. So the Lions are far worse at tight end than they are with pieces in the defense. And that's where I'm going to shift my focus. And I did this a few years ago with Aaron Glenn and his defense at that time. I felt like he was doing a really bad job coaching up his group. And I'm not questioning like coaches and things like that. I know these guys work their ass off, but I had problems then because he had the talent to do it. They went out and drafted players. If you look back at those drafts in 22 and 23, a lot of it was primarily on the defensive side of the football. And I know the Lions have a habit, drafting guys like Tate Ratledge and Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams and finding some splashy players and then getting some consistent pieces to the trenches. That's fine. That's the way you're supposed to do it. But defensively, there's talent here. And I think that this team that is, while they're all about grit, this defense completely lacks every ounce of the meaning of it outside of a couple of players. And those players are probably Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. Outside of that, it doesn't seem like any of these guys embrace it. Maybe AQM. Nobody else embraces what grit is all about and what this football team is all about. And if you don't believe me, Just go back the 4 weeks. Go back the last month, and you tell me, because it felt like a team that did really well against the Philadelphia Eagles, and when the offense let them down in that game, the defense kept them in. They lost, sure, but they gave up 272 points and 272 yards and 16 points to the Eagles a month ago. Since then, the New York Giants, they gave up 27 points and 517 total yards without Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors. Against Green Bay, 31 points and 359 total yards. Dallas, 30 points and 417 total yards. And against the Rams, 41 points for 519 total yards. That's 1,812 total yards, 129 total points, on average, 32.25 points per game, and 453 total yards allowed over that span. You're not winning football games, no matter how good the offense is performing. And this is an offense that's had to put up 34 points twice, once in a win, once in a loss during that span. The other game, they had to put up 44. It's not attainable in the league that we're in. Offensive league or not. It's just not. Like, you need to come in and do your job. And I don't know if the problem is Calvin Shepard, but I don't think Townsend's doing a really good job developing some of these defensive backs. DJ Reed comes here and he looks worse. Amik Robertson is playing some of the worst football he's ever played. And he played pretty well last year for Townsend, who was in his first year in that defensive back role. And I think it's telling when guys go as coaches and they go to places for 1 or 2 years and then they move to another team. It's the same thing in your 9-to-5 job that you work in, and you look at a resume and a guy is going to, flip burgers for you, but he's been, in the last 8 years, he's been at 6 different restaurants. There's probably a reason behind that. The same thing here with Townsend and John Morton. They're established coaches. They've been around the league, but there's a reason why they're bouncing around a year or two every single time, because they're not very good. And I mean that in the utmost respect. They probably have a lot more knowledge about the game of football than I do, but Amik Robertson over the last month, 28 receptions, 415 yards, and 3 touchdowns allowed in the last month. I get it. He's not a number one corner, but you know what? He's getting asked to do it. You paid DJ Reed all this money to be potentially a number one corner. I don't know why he's not on number one receivers, but it is what it is. Well, Russ, he came back from a hamstring. I don't care. You're healthy, play. If not, get off the field. The same thing with Amik. If you're not healthy, get off the field. The same thing with Aleem McNeil. You're not healthy, get off the field. You did nothing against the Rams. You're getting paid $94 million to be out there. You had no tackles, no stats. You had 1 pressure. DJ Reader, we talked about this last year, probably around the same time. Nosedive in production. Same thing here. First 7 games of the season, prior to the bye week, that was week 8, he had 9 total pressures. He had 1 game of those 7 games without a pressure. Outside of that, he had 1 pressure or more in every single game. And in those first 7 games, the Lions were 5-2. Since then, he has 3 total pressures. He has 4 games out of the last 7 with no pressures. And they are who they are. They're an 8-6 football team. They're 4-5 in their last 9 games. Like, it's not good enough. So this whole, well, they don't have another edge rusher. AQM is like 2nd or 3rd in the NFL in pressures. He's got more pressure rate, if you will, pressure percentage, because he doesn't play all the snaps. Aside from that, him and Hutch are doing just fine. They're doing what they need to do. And they probably wouldn't face as many double teams and chips if guys like Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader would step up and do something. If this coaching staff would identify and say, hey, Roy Lopez is giving us a little bit more of a spark, we should play him more. They don't. And it's just, it's crazy to me. I cannot figure out why a team that is so aggressive with their blitzes are yet so conservative with them. It makes no sense at all. To your point, 3rd down, 4th down, you're going man coverage, but you're only sending a 4-man rush. So what the hell's the other guys doing? Because if you got 4 defensive backs manned up, what's Jack Campbell doing? Why is he playing spy on Matthew Stafford? Why is anybody doing that? Get after the guy. Go all out on him. If you're going to go. And just be full on, the ship is sinking, but we're throwing every dart at the board that we can. But they just continue to refuse that, and they stick to this conservative identity and it's not working. And that's why these games are the way that they are. And like, if you look back and you take a second and go to ESPN and you look at the schedule and you look at these last 4 games and look at the score, 34-27 win, 31-24 loss, 44-30 win, 41-34 loss. That's it. So many F-bombs want to come out of my mouth right now. Like, what are we doing? And I get people are going to say, well, Russ, they lost Terrion Arnold. They lost Brian Branch. They lost Kirby Joseph. Branch and Joseph have barely been on the field together at all this year.
Yeah.
And we said it in the spring that the safety depth is a little bit concerning. And I said Dan Jackson would be a player that would have a bigger role than we expect at that point in time. Obviously, he got hurt. And I'm not trying to sit here and toot my own horn and be like, yeah, I'm the man. I predicted all this. I didn't want any of this to happen. But there was clearly a lack of depth and talent on the back end of your secondary, but they refused to identify that. And the only way that they did was go out and get a former second-round pick in Rock Yassin and Avonte Maddox. And I'm okay with that because the front 7 is still fully intact. You still have Malcolm Rodriguez. You have Tyleek Williams. You have Marcus Davenport or AQM, whoever you want to label as the starter. You've got Roy Lopez. You've got, again, Maddox and Rock Yassin. You got DJ Reed back after you lost Terrion Arnold. You have 8 or 9 starters on your defense, and that includes Amik. They're not playing well enough. And I don't know if that's coaching, the players, the scheme. I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem like the scheme has changed very much from what was previously here.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they went in-house with Calvin Shepard, because they didn't have to reshuffle everything and a new philosophy. But if that's the case, why isn't this shit working? Because it's laughable to me that people point out, and I'm not throwing you under the bus, I'm just saying in general, those first 3 drives in the third quarter and how pivotal those are. If the offense has to bat 1,000 so the defense can bat 250, that's not it's not feasible. It's not realistic. It's not feasible. You're 8-6 football team because of that. And if you don't even the playing field on both sides of the football and you don't figure out and identify who the problems are, then we're in for a long road in the offseason and probably a long future with this football team and organization until it all comes crumbling down. I hope that doesn't happen. I pray that doesn't happen. But it's just frustrating. I'm very frustrated with this defense, and I hope they figure it out because right now, it feels like they have no identity outside of Aiden Hutchinson and Jack Campbell. Outside of that, that's it. That's how I feel. I could be wrong, but I don't know. The team needs to, I don't know, bat in the hatches, figure it out because it's not good. Not good enough.
And their insistence to play so much man. It's a little bit confusing at times when it's just failing, Yeah. Like I know it's Puka Nacua, it's Devontae Adams, it's Matt Stafford, all that stuff. Those guys are great. Colby Parkinson scored twice in that game. There's just a lot of what looks like confusion, and I'm not going to say they're settling for whatever is happening on defense, but they're certainly not. They're not. Like you go in at halftime, and you got the Lions got a lucky play. It's a great play from Hutchinson, but it's not a play that's going to happen all the time. I don't mean lucky, but it's a high variance play, like the Hutchinson pick. Yep. You get that in the first half. You get the Rams to punt, and that's why you're up in the first half the way you were. That's why you go to halftime feeling pretty good. But, coming out of it, I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but I don't know. Did the Rams punt in the second half? I don't remember. Regardless, it doesn't matter. It just, the point is that, go ahead.
No, they punted twice. That's it.
Okay.
In the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So it feels like teams, like the reason I brought it up earlier about the Lions maybe getting exploited a little with the Rams hurrying to the, into the huddle and then hurrying out of the huddle and hurrying the snap, is it feels like teams make adjustments based on some of the things the Lions are doing. Mm-hmm. And that's smart. Like if the Rams did see this in the first half, they did see the Lions substituting late. like it's smart to do some of the things that they're doing. The Lions really didn't, to me, look like there's a lot of times when they don't look like they're changing anything that they're doing, right? Yep. And that's tough when you're playing against elite players like what the Rams have, to just keep doing it, keep banging your head against the wall, over and over again. I don't know. It's tough to watch. But in the end, for me, it's like, as positive as I've wanted to be around the Lions, they're 8-6 right now. But I think that maybe the best way to view them as a team that, and I can own whatever responsibility I have in it, is we expected too much. And if we expected them to be a 7-7 football team through 14 games, you got exactly what you expected, right? An inconsistent 7-7 team. That's what they are. They're 8-6. You had to beat the Giants in overtime to be this, right? Like, that's sort of what I think our expectation should be, is that it feels like a team that has disappointed us only because our expectations were for them to be significantly more, for them to be better than they really are.
Yeah.
And are we at a point where we should recognize that the losses of multiple things going into the season, going into the offseason last year, led to some of this stuff? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if that's fair. I mean, clearly their offense, the center position, is a problem for them.
Yeah.
But in totality, they're a pretty, they're a 500 football team that we expected more from. Even right now, we're talking about them finishing the season 3-0 and being an 11-6 team that gets into the playoffs. Maybe luckily, we'll see. I don't know that there's any reason to believe they can go 3-0 to finish the season. And I'm not saying they can't, because they can. I don't want to be one of those, nihilistic doubters.
No.
But their offense it's amazing. Their offense is the number one offense in football.
Yeah.
And you're missing the playoffs.
And you're 8-6. And again, it goes back to this defense. It is. And I know the offense has had struggle, but they have played arguably better with Dan Campbell calling plays than they did with John Morton. They still lack the execution piece. They still have costly turnovers, not turnovers, but costly penalties.
Yeah. But I think that's what happens when your young right guard is stressed, and when your very banged up old center is stressed, and your backup left guard is stressed. You're gonna have issues, and then you got tight ends who are down the depth chart guys who are being asked to man up, and block dudes like Jared Verse on the edge, on the backside, right?
Yeah,
and getting washed into the front side A gap, like, wow,
And to your point earlier about like the Rams having a really good tight end room, maybe they at some point in the offseason identified that, hey, we want to move to strictly 12 and 13 personnel a lot more frequently. So we're going to go get some dudes, and we're going to develop this tight end room, from Davis Allen to Colby Parkinson to drafting Terrence Ferguson. Like, they didn't need to draft Terrence Ferguson, but they identified that Tyler Higbee is banged up and is old. And, let's go get 3 brand new guys. And I know they've had Allen and Parkinson for a little bit of time, but like, you go out and go get those guys and you find out, hey, this is going to be the identity of our football team. The Lions
they 100% prioritize that, because drafting Blake Corum is a nod to the exact same thing. Like, we're going to be heavy and we're going to run. Following that up by taking Jarquez Hunter this year, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Right. Maybe the Lions do need to do similar things.
They do need to do that. They need to find out what their identity is going to be and build on that. And they haven't done that. It's been, well, this guy's out, so we're just going to replace with this. And then it's like when you're shopping and you're like, well, we're out of butter, let's go get more butter. We need peanut butter, we got peanut butter. We need the meat for the week, here it is. And that's it. But like, if a bodybuilder wants to get strong, they go in and get chicken and rice and chicken and rice and chicken and rice. And it's the same thing. That's what the Rams did. The Lions aren't doing that. They're just going out and they see a hole. We need to fill this. Here we go. We're putting the potential round peg in the square hole. And it's kind of the same deal. And it's frustrating because this is a team that was really good a season ago, and they're not really good right now, but there is a standard. And it goes back to what we talked about after the Chiefs game. We sat on this podcast and I said, I don't think this team is as good as we thought that they were. And you agreed. And we've been saying that for 7-8 weeks now. And they just are who they are. And they're still good to a degree, but the standard of this football team has changed and they're not meeting that standard. And we're seeing that obviously reflect in the win-loss column. And I think when we move forward here to week 16, the preview of the Steelers, the season's on the line, period, end of story. Like
I don't want to do it. I think I'm out. I don't want to do this.
No, and I'm with you, but I think people are looking at this game as just like, Lions can get in, man. It's just going to come down to week 18. No, it comes down to this week 16. Because this is not a shoe-in, walk-in, and win game. Well, they don't lose back-to-back games. Well, they do. We've seen that in our lifetime.
Well, they're not winning back-to-back games either.
Right. And this is the thing. I understand what the trend is. You win one, you lose one, you win one, you lose one. That's who this team is in. But if there's a letdown spot this season, this is the moment. And it terrifies me. This game absolutely terrifies me. And they may walk in and roll them 41-17. I would love it. But I genuinely do not know if they can do that. And I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. Aaron Rodgers, that offense, I'm not saying they're gelling. I know they played Miami, but that offense, they can get going and they can be tough to stop. And guess what they have? 3 good tight ends.
They do, and they have a really good offensive line. It worries me thinking as this game evolves, watching Aaron Rodgers pick the Lions defense apart again. I'm concerned about it. The Steelers don't give up pressure. They just don't. Nope. The Lions are going to struggle to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. They just are.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to think that okay, who are the Steelers' weapons? Is DK Metcalf going off this week? Is he going to go bananas? He could. I think Jalen Warren probably plays pretty well, runs the ball pretty effectively against the Lions.
Kenneth Gainwell?
Probably not. And not out. I don't think they run it as effectively as like the Rams did, but they're going to run it. They're going to try to run it. Gainwell's going to catch a bunch of passes out of the backfield. I think the Steelers' offense is capped in some ways, in ways that the Rams absolutely was not. So you feel like the Steelers can be hemmed in a touch. But if you're not getting a bunch of pressure and Aaron Rodgers is back there just having a field day, I mean, it just feels like one of those things where it would be the ultimate Rodgers thing. It felt like we had exorcised the ghost of Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, and here he is again. He's back. He's Voldemort, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I would definitely be lying if I said I wasn't worried about the Lions' defense in this matchup. I am. Offensively, I think they'll do. They're J-Mo and Amon-Ra are both top 10 receivers in the NFL. It's kind of crazy to think about. They're that good. They're going to do good things against the Steelers. It's just a matter of, is there a funky turnover that happens here or there? Do the Steelers force the Lions into a one-dimensional offense because the Lions' interior O-line can't generate any push. They can't get out to the second level to give your running back lanes to run in. The Lions really need to be, in order to win comfortably, you need to be able to run and throw. Obviously, we saw them throw the ball really effectively last week, but it wasn't good enough. Significant concerns about this matchup. But
No, yeah, I know, man. And, if you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, he's obviously just always been good standing back there, slinging it, doing whatever. But as he's gotten older, and this is a team that wants to commit to the run game, they're gonna have some play action, and that play action boot play is going to come out to play because the Rams just exposed the Lions with it. I put out the video clip of all the throws from Matthew Stafford on that specific play. He was 5 for 6 on Sunday for 61 yards and a touchdown. He had one scramble for 2 yards that I thought was a first down. He was actually short, and it ended up sending up that fourth down that they got. The only incompletion he had would have been a touchdown to Devontae Adams, but Alex Anzalone got a hand on it. So he would have been perfect on the day had Anzalone not broke that play up. And it's like, that's going to happen here. Adam Thielen, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Gainwell coming out of the backfield, Freiermuth, Washington,
Jonnu
that's a big
Smith.
body. Yeah, Jonnu Smith. Like, they're going to be able to do some things with their 13 personnel. They get Connor Hayward involved. They do that little tush push with him now.
Yep.
It's going to be a really tough matchup. It's not going to be a walk in the park. We're walking in and going to beat them. And I know Vegas has the spread at 7. I don't know how you can bet the Lions -7 with any confidence whatsoever. But the saving grace is that we have a very good offense. They have explosive plays. We have Jahmyr Gibbs. When he has a bad game, he tends to come back and do a really good job. They're gonna have to lean on their guys. And they're going to have to identify their best 11 on offense across the board, not just, well, you're our long-term center, you're our guy. If you have a better center somewhere, figure it out and get him in there. Find your best left guard. And the same thing on the defensive line. I don't care what you're paying Aleem McNeil. If he's not getting the job done, play Tyleek Williams and Roy Lopez. Play your best defensive tackles so you can get some interior pressure. And that will make things easier for AQM and the rest of this, and Hutch and the rest of this defense. And
the secondary. If you're getting a little pressure, it makes things a little easier for your secondary members to play.
Exactly. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how it shakes up. I mean, I'm really hopeful, but the season, it's on the line. And, I don't know where else I can go on this. To me, it falls on the defense. The defense can get more than, just a little splash turnover and one sack here. You got to put some drives together where you're stopping them from doing anything.
Yeah,
if Amik undercuts a ball, catch it, please, this time. Don't just let it bounce off your hands. Do a little bit more and make some big plays on some key down and distances and get off the field. And then the offense, as much as we like explosives, string together some drives where you eat up 6 or 7 minutes of clock. Like, where'd that go? Where's the identity of the team on that? And I think that's what it boils down to. If we had to summarize the season, what's the identity of this football team, offensively and defensively? And I think,
the only thing hopeful, just to because this feels like a total bummer.
It is, because they did it to themselves.
It's been 43 and a half minutes of you kicking me in both nuts with what you're saying, but they are in a situation where they have, I don't want to say they control their own destiny, but
they do.
This is a team that talks all the time about, grit and being able to perform when it really matters, right? All that stuff. It really matters. So let's see, right? This is going to be a fun game to watch, just to see how the Lions play in a situation where it's an absolute no-brainer must win. We've seen this throughout multiple sports for years. The teams that come into the playoffs hot, and the teams that come into the playoffs playing football for multiple weeks, or hockey, or whatever it is, basketball, whatever it is, when you have to win and there is no margin to lose a game, those teams generally play pretty well in the playoffs because they're playing playoff type stuff, football right now. Right. The Lions have that opportunity in front of them. They do. I believe in Dan Campbell. I really do. I believe in Brad Holmes. I think they've taken this team and put them in a situation that I have never seen in my lifetime before. Let's see, right? I mean, it's all right in front of us to be able to witness this coming Sunday. We'll see what they look like, but it's right in front of us. It's a 1 week. They can't control what any other teams do, and we can't be looking to week 18. It's week 16. You said it. I mean, it is must win. I'm intrigued and excited to see what the Lions can do in a must-win game, while also recognizing that they've been underwhelming and disappointing for the larger part of this entire season. Yep. But we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And it's, this is what we've always wanted, right? Competitive games late in the year, into December, going into January, playing competitive football. They're doing that. They're obviously not doing it up to the standard that we want, but they control their own destiny, to your point. And I know what it is. They don't lose back-to-back games. They haven't done so in quite some time. It's been quite a few years, quite a few games. Obviously, streaks are meant to be broken. I hope it's not now, but this is a team. If the defense can step up and do what they need to do, the offense, I think, can figure things out consistently enough. But you got to get after it. And I don't know. I don't want to look ahead. I don't want to look to anything. Yeah. You get this 9th win. Maybe it kind of gets the monkey off your back a little bit, and you can string things together and just find a way to get in. If they get in, it's cool. But we'll see. But
it doesn't. Even if they do get in, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the dynamic around their issues, and their in some ways their inability to self-scout their own issues.
Yes.
That's one of the things. That's one of the bigger takeaways from this entire year is that, and maybe some of it's unfair too, but it still exists, that they haven't done a good job of recognizing their own flaws, both offensively and defensively, and at times it's haunted them.
Yeah.
Let's hope that we do see a little a change in their tone of what they do on defense. Maybe they get a little bit of a gift in TJ Watt. I don't know that he's going to play. He's got the lung issue. That's a huge deal. There isn't much to take away from the Monday night game though, because the Dolphins played terrible, and that I don't know. I think we've said enough on this. It's just we all know what's happening in terms of like the context around what they need to do. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, we'll see. We don't have anything on injury reports. That will come out Wednesday afternoon. It's early Wednesday afternoon for us right now, but later today, 4:00, we'll kind of get that first initial injury report for both teams. So we'll obviously know what's going on with TJ Watt and all that stuff. But real quick to close us out, as we do, key player to watch on offense, key player to watch on defense. Do you have anybody in mind that you're looking for on the Lions offense specifically? And why is it Graham Glasgow?
Honestly, I kind of think I think the bellwether for wins and losses at this point is Gibbs. And I know that they're really forcing things with him, and I get it. I mean, I would too. Listen, if I was a high school offensive coordinator and calling plays, and I had a Jahmyr Gibbs in the high school level, he would never leave the field.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Even if it would be like, hey, you average 2.5 yards a carry, but you're going to pop one for 70 on the next one. I know you are, so I get it. And I'm not by no stretch am I. None of that nonsense about what I think they. To me, the bellwether is if Gibbs is productive and making explosive plays happen. I don't love explosive plays against the Rams because you're giving the ball back to their offense. You can't stop them. But I think it's a little different with Pittsburgh just because they are a touch capped. To me, that's the bellwether on offense is Gibbs. And is he a 125-yard, possibly 2-touchdown guy in this game with some catches? He needs to be. Yeah.
He needs to be. Yeah. No, you're right. And it's a good choice. I think obviously we know that the offense really feeds through him pretty consistently. So hopefully that stays the course here. I'm going to say Jared Goff just strictly because he seems frustrated with the fans a little bit. Not saying that the fans
he's pissy about it, and I don't blame him. Yeah,
I don't blame him, but at the same time, like, you don't get an automatic pass because you've won the division 2 years in a row and you've gotten the playoffs and you've done some things that quarterbacks have not done here. You don't get a pass. Like, you set the bar and now you've got to keep reaching that bar. And like, that's just the way it works. And you're going to have down years, but
I don't think we need to turn into spoiled brat. Not you and I, but you know what I'm saying? Like, well, maybe you and I, maybe me. We don't need to be turned into, punks in and around the inability to recognize that some things are out of their control, but we're not doing it, like there's a level of, this is the thing. These are the things I'd love for them to do. on offense and defense, and I would hope that it might make winning games a little easier. But we don't, we're not saying that we have all the answers or any of those kind of things, but we're also not saying that we're not supporting the Lions or not wanting. We're full recognition the Lions are a really good football team, playing middling football right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
he's got to come out
incredible this year. He's played. I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He is.
No, you're right. I agree, and that's why I'm picking him, because these next 3 weeks, it's on you, man. Take the game over, lead the offense, lead the charge, be the reason to why. Cold coffee.
Yeah,
it's always the worst.
I should have done. See, we're talking about the things that they can't do, and I poured myself a cup of coffee like an hour ago, and I didn't recognize it was going to be cold. It's a total failure.
Shame on you.
This is loser shit.
Should be fired. Key player on defense for me. I'm going Aleem McNeil. You're getting paid all this money. You gotta change the game here. You came out against Tampa Bay, threatening Baker Mayfield, collapsing in the pocket. You haven't really done much since. Can we get the old Aleem McNeil back for the next 3 weeks, specifically in this game? Can you get after old man Rodgers for us? Could you please?
Yes, it would be wonderful if they harassed Rodgers and frustrated him, right? Like, and he threw a pick or two or whatever it was, like the stuff that we've seen. The McNeil plays as their 3, and that's cool. He does need to generate some push and some pressure. I still think it's Hutch. He's got to drive the bus, and I know it's an easy out. It really is. But he needs to do. I mean, he had a great that play that he made last week against Stafford was absurd. Like, all right, I'm being blocked by a tight end, and he left me. Like, why would he leave me? Oh, that's weird. Are they running a tight end screen? Oh, I'm going to pick this pass off.
Yeah,
like it's a ridiculous play. Like the instincts to make that play are crazy. He needs to be able to collapse things. One of the things that we haven't seen a ton of is him going inside, the 2-hand swipe inside this year. Maybe it's because he is getting chipped so much, so tackles aren't oversetting. I don't know. Don't have a good answer for it.
Quite a bit though too. Like there's times on those TE stunts where he just gets knocked off his path. And
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if he lost some weight for the leg or what. I don't know what that whole process looks like for somebody with an injury like that or his size, but I'm with you. I think if he, works his hands a little bit more consistently, works inside on his rush, I think he can definitely find some success, and maybe he will this week. Maybe this is where it all changes and he turns the corner literally on the field and figurative.
Yeah. And they're going to need it. They're going to need Rodgers kind of panicky and second guessing, is it cool for me to be in the pocket right now? Because I don't know what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. But I also know that's a bit of a easy out as far as that answer goes. But there's really nobody else where it'd be like, I don't know what they're going to do with Metcalf. I would imagine they would play a safety over the top of him, just because you can't allow him to get his speed up and going. I know it takes him a little time to get up to speed, but I would think that they would, but I don't know. We'll see.
Seems like a good matchup to me. It seems like a good matchup for Amik Robertson to potentially, redeem himself a little bit if there's the build-up speed aspect of Metcalf.
Yeah.
Maybe you can play off a little bit, or you play press man and you prevent some of that build-up speed with the safety over the top. And then obviously you just got to win your one-on-ones with, Adam Thielen and MVS and some of those other guys that Rodgers.
Austin.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how this shakes out. That's kind of our bitch session here because that's what we needed it. I needed it. I've been going insane for the last couple of days. So good to get this off my chest. You guys can find us and follow us on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft and at Bischoff_Scott. You can rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. Do you got anything you want to add before we close this out?
Nope.
No, we're good.
No, we've done enough.
Yeah, well, obviously, let us know what you guys think. What's your opinions on the Lions? Give us your key player to watch on offense and defense as well in the comments below. But that's it. That's all we've got for Week 15 review, Week 16 preview, my little rant. We'll be back next week for Bischoff and Brown, Detroit Lions podcast. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. This has been Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast.